Hello, and thank you very much. I have wanted to be an environmentalist for a very long time, and speaking here today in the environmental sector of TEDxProvidence makes me feel like I may have achieved that goal to some degree, and I'm very, very honored by that. Um, I am co-executive director of Farm Fresh Rhode Island, and my area of environmental practice right now is in the good food movement, the local food movement. We run farmers markets, we give education programs in schools and community centers. We have a transparent wholesale marketplace for local farms, and we try to create better access for low-income shoppers to fresh, healthy local food. And I love to talk about good food, and I love to talk about Farm Fresh, and I will talk a little bit more about it in a moment, but I wanted to talk a little bit first about my journey to the stage today. And the thing you need to know first about me is that I'm a very anxious person, and my anxiety can sometimes be hidden from people I know. I come across as a very low-key person, but I think it's because my anxiety vibrates at such a high level. It's like infrared light. It's like a dog whistle, like nobody can see it, but it's there. And the way I fight my anxiety is with a to-do list. I am a fixer and a problem solver and a doer of things. So when I came to college to get my environmental degree, I studied hard a wide range of scientific topics: botany, zoology, geology, oceanography, population dynamics, and I was looking very hard for the thing to do on my list, right? My to-do list, the thing to do to save the planet. I bought the book, 50 Things to Do to Save the Planet. I was ready. Fortunately, what I found in my studies were a lot of things not to do to save the planet. I learned a lot about not buying things, not doing things, not using things, not being things. And beyond recycling and composting, which I did passionately, I couldn't find the thing to do. I mean, I understood that if I could go to the rainforest and chain myself to a tree, definitely, I was something I could do, but beyond that, not much. And the environmental movement felt to me, and I own this is personal, like it was bossy, like it was telling me not to do things. Like just being here causes environmental degradation. Breathing, yes, greenhouse gas emissions. It was troubling to me, and I was a confused person anyway, so I got stuck. And it seemed to me at the time, and bear with me, that this was a lot like original sin in Christianity, how, the central paradox of Christianity, one of them at least, that you are born into sin. And with environmentalism, just being here is tough on the environment. Original sin is a deal breaker for a lot of people when it comes to Christianity, and original environmental sin was a deal breaker for me for environmentalism at the time. I wanted to be an environmentalist because, of course, I love nature. I love being outdoors. I come from a farming family in Florida. My family are all citrus growers. I grew up in groves. We're from a farming culture. My grandfather, who I think of as the chief farmer in my family, lived in this beautiful place in Florida, obviously. His groves on one side of the house, and his beautiful garden on the other side of the house, where he grew all manner of vegetables and tropical fruits: bananas, papayas, mangoes, plus peaches and nectarines. And that to me was heaven. It was just the Garden of Eden, marred only by the kind of stomach aches you can get as an 8-year-old when you eat nothing but peaches all day long. And that was so important to me. And my grandfather is a very unique individual and a very important guy in my life. And the more that I think about him as an adult, the more unusual I see that he was. First of all, he lived to be 100, which is an extraordinary thing to do. And I really think he absolutely meant to do it, because he only died a few months after his 100th birthday party. Sheer force of will there. He was a very religious man, or as he would say, He's a very Christian man. But he wasn't evangelical. He was a very strict Methodist, and he was a Sunday school teacher and a church leader. And this was an everyday part of his life. The church he went to practiced a very austere form of Methodism. So there was no drinking, no dancing, no smoking, no gambling, no playing of games. I never ever saw him turn on the radio and listen to music. He lived 2 miles from some of the most beautiful beaches in the entire world, and I never once saw him go swimming, never mind wear shorts. In the midst of this beautiful Eden setting he lived in, where everything looked, smelled, and tasted delicious, he was living in this culture, this very prescriptive culture of no, don't. And I never really saw how unfun he was because I was in love with his world in the sun, eating tangerines and playing with grasshoppers and fishing with him at dawn on the intercoastal waterway. But coming north to college and getting my environmental studies degree, I felt like I had gone to his church and hadn't been able to come home afterwards, that I was stuck in that little white church listening to the sermons about hellfire and damnation without the amazing strawberries at the end. And this put me off a little bit again, and so I entered my career stepping away from science and working in community nonprofits and working hard on learning the skills I still use every day, fundraising, publicity, and organizational development. And I wasn't saving the rainforest in Brazil, but I was getting stuff done for Rhode Island, and I did okay. And I went for about 20 years and doing stuff and was fine, no worries, still anxious, still vibrating, still fine. It was okay. And then one day, about 20 years later, I got the flu. And that doesn't seem extraordinary at all, but I'd never had the flu before, and thank God I haven't had it since then. But I got the flu. I had signed up for the flu clinic at work, but I missed the hours, and it just didn't work out, and I had 2 little kids, and I was really busy, and I got the flu. And it was really bad. And everybody, including my doctor, was like, duh, the flu is really bad. Like, yeah, feel better. But I just felt worse and worse and worse over the course of a week. And I felt really bad on the way to the emergency room. And I felt really bad on the way down the hall to the ICU. And I felt really bad until they put me into a medically induced coma and put me on the ventilator. So yeah, I almost died from having the flu. But, I didn't, right? I'm here. So I was in the coma for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, they took me off the ventilator, and I started to recover. And it was like I was a bird that had flown full force into a plate glass window. When I came out, I couldn't walk. I could barely talk. I was hallucinating. And when I stopped hallucinating, I just couldn't remember anything. And it was a very real trauma for me and my family. But all the same, there's this little romantic voice in the back of my head saying, oh my God, you had a near-death experience. You have to change your life. It's what it's for. And I had some time on my hands, so I thought about it a lot. And I realized that I needed to get back to what I wanted to do when I was young. Now, a lot of people helped me and my family very much get through my illness. My husband and my extended family is on top of my thank you list. Another person who helped a lot get through the illness was named Louella Hill. And Louella had started a student project at Brown University about 1.5 years before I got sick, that she called Farm Fresh Rhode Island. And I had been volunteering with Lou for a while. And as I was recuperating, the importance of local food became more and more clear to me. It became clear that this was an area of environmentalism that was all about a positive choice. It was about yes, it was about do. And I could see that the local food movement meant to me going back to the garden after being in church. And I learned some things from my grandfather and from Louella and the great people who helped build Farm Fresh, and from my own experience, I learned that there are a lot of limits in a strict religious life, and that there are limits to a good environmentalist life, and that those limits can box you into a place so small that you can't do anything at all. Or you can use them as a structure and a platform to build yourself up to a place where all the decisions are good and all the things you can do are good. Now, at Farm Fresh, I try to bring those lessons to our work. And I try to say, this is a positive choice for the environment. This local food is environmentally good. It lessens greenhouse gas emissions. It lessens packaging. There's a whole host of reasons that it's good. But the key is that it is also a good thing to do. It feels good. It is good. Farm Fresh is not in the business of being the produce police, and we don't care if you missed the market last week. We're not the diet police. I love pizza and I love French fries. We are not in the business of no, don't. That we are in the business of delicious. We make it easy to find local food and easy to make the choice. And it's interesting to me how you make that choice. What is the motivation for driving the extra mile to the market on Saturday? What is your motivation for waiting until local strawberries are ripe to make your special strawberry shortcake? What are the reasons? And there are lots of them, and I know many of them. But I also know that people will do things because they feel guilty, but they won't enjoy doing it. And people will do things if other people are watching, but they'll stop when the other people look away. Academics and nutritionists and policymakers debate how to make a change in people's diets, and they say we should tax junk food and reduce its consumption in that way, in a prescriptive way. And then other people say, no, we should encourage and incentivize the purchase of healthy food because that is a positive reinforcement. And this argument reminds me of advice I got when my older daughter, got to be old enough to misbehave. And that advice was, catch her being good. That frankly, she's always good no matter what. And sometimes her behavior might be bad, but the way you create a culture of good behavior is to reward and celebrate it rather than figure out the best punishment for what she's done wrong. And so at Farm Fresh, as you could probably guess, we incentivize the purchase of fresh, healthy, local food rather than try to talk to people about that soda they drank last week. Because purchasing local food is a good idea for your diet, and the kicker is it tastes really good too. So the thing to remember and the thing to think about is how to make a change lasting and profound. It will be a good thing for the environment, and it'll be a good thing for your diet and for you. And there are prescriptive ways to say this that are absolutely valid, that you will become obese if you have too much sugar. The environment will degrade if we don't preserve it from being overdeveloped. That open space is important to our home, and local business is very important to our stuttering economy. But really, mostly, I just want you to think about a vine-ripened tomato in August, or that apple you pick in October when the air is starting to get crisp and cold, or the first strawberry we're about to get after this impossible winter of snow and ice. And that taste is the reason for the choice. And if you stay in that space, in that choice, for that reason, it will become an everyday part of your life. Like it is for me, it'll be the choice you make every day. Thank you.